I never thought my 11-year-old nephew's lemonade stand would lead to an arrest. But when you live in the Oakage Estates, anything can happen. Especially when Barbara Winters, or as everyone calls her behind her back, Karen is the president of the Homeowners Association. She's been the HOA president for 3 years, and in that time, our once friendly neighborhood has turned into her own personal kingdom, complete with ridiculous rules and outrageous fines. It all started last Saturday when my sister dropped off my nephew Tyler for the weekend. The heat was brutal, 98 degrees in the shade, and Tyler, being the entrepreneurial kid suggested a water stand. Rather than the classic lemonade Uncle Mike, everyone's going to be thirsty in this heat, he reasoned. Besides, bottled water is easier than lemonade. The kid had a point. I helped him make a colorful sign and set up a small table at the edge of my front lawn, so it wasn't blocking the sidewalk. Tyler was excited, arranging the cooler full of ice and water bottles I'd contributed to his entrepreneurial venture. $1 a bottle, he called out proudly. And I'm going to save half for college. I couldn't help but smile at his ambition. He'd been talking about becoming a vet since he was 5. Business was surprisingly good neighbors, strolling by deliverymen, and even a few cars stopped by. Tyler was having the time of his life, getting to work on his math and his customer service smile. I sat on the porch watching him while catching up on some reading and waving, now and then at neighbors who reciprocated my wave with approving nods. That's when I saw Barbara's silver Mercedes crawling down the street. Slowly, she slowed to a stop in front of my house, her oversized designer sunglasses perched on her nose as she surveyed the scene like a disapproving monarch. I knew trouble was brewing. Barbara had a knack for finding infractions where none were to be had, and she appeared to take special delight in targeting my property. Ever since I questioned the necessity of repainting my fence 3 years ago when it was still in perfect condition, she came out of her car holding a clipboard in hand. A clipboard like she was conducting an official inspection. "Excuse me?" she called out in that nauseatingly sweet voice that preceded her launching into a complaint. "What's going on here exactly?" Before I could respond, Tyler piped up. "I'm selling water, ma'am. Would you like to buy one? It's really hot today." Barbara didn't even acknowledge him addressing herself to me. Instead, "Michael, you know very well. Commercial activities are not permitted in Oakage Estates. It's clearly written in Section 8, Paragraph 4 of the HOA bylaws." I stood up, stepping forward to intervene between Tyler and Barbara's unwarranted hostility. "Barbara, it's a kid selling water on a hot day. He's not attempting to open a Walmart." Her lips compressed to a thin, nearly imperceptible line. "Rules are rules, Michael. They're for everyone, regardless of the age. I'm going to have to ask you to shut this down immediately." Tyler looked up at me, confusion clouding his face. I placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Barbara, there's nothing in the bylaws about children's refreshment stands. I've read them cover to cover." Which was true after my fence debacle. I'd almost memorized every absurd rule in that 20-page document. She huffed, flipping through her clipboard. "Well, he doesn't have a vendor permit from the city either. This is illegal on multiple fronts." I couldn't help but laugh. A vendor permit for a kid selling water bottles. Come on, Barbara, even you must see how ridiculous that sounds. That was apparently the wrong thing to say. Her face reddened, clashing spectacularly with her blonde highlights. "I'm giving you 15 minutes to remove this eyesore from community view, or I'll be forced to take further action." I crossed my arms. What constitutes further action? "Barbara, are you going to fine me for encouraging entrepreneurship?" She turned on her heel, stalking back to her vehicle. "You'll see, Michael. You'll see. I thought that would be the end of it." Barbara was well known for threats she rarely ever carried out, usually happy with spreading rumors about rule breakers at her weekly tennis matches. I told Tyler not to worry and encouraged him to continue with his business venture. "Some people just don't appreciate the value of hard work and enterprise," I said, which seemed to put his mind at rest. About an hour later, I was helping Tyler count his profits, a whopping $47, when a police car pulled up to the curb. My heart sank as I watched 2 officers get out and approach us. Barbara was nowhere to be found, but I could feel her triumph from wherever she was hiding. "Good afternoon, officers," I greeted them, trying to sound casual for Tyler's sake. "Yes, what can we do for you today?" The older officer, whose nameplate read Rodriguez, spoke first. "We got a call about an unlicensed merchant selling tainted water to citizens, possibly causing a public health risk." My jaw dropped. Tainted water. It's literally sealed Aquafina bottles from Costco. I pointed to the cooler where the other bottles were sitting in ice. Officer Rodriguez's partner, a young woman named Chan. Her badge read, crouched down to Tyler's height. "Hi there, young man. Do you mind if I take a look at what you're selling?" Tyler nodded nervously. opening the wider cooler. "It's just water, ma'am. I haven't touched any of them." I swear Officer Chen reached for a bottle, examining the unbroken seal. "Looks perfectly fine to me." She stood up, exchanging a look with her partner that spoke volumes. "Who called this in?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "We're not at liberty to disclose," Officer Rodriguez said. But his face eased. "But I think we can all speculate." Just then, as if summoned by the speaking of her offenses, Barbara's Mercedes reappeared. She parked across the street and got out with the smug smile I'd ever seen, sauntering toward us, as if she was about to witness her greatest triumph. "Officers, I'm Barbara Winters, president of the Oakage Estates Homeowners Association," she said, offering her hand that neither officer shook. "I see you've responded to my complaints about this illegal vending operation." Officer Chen's eyebrow rose slightly. "Ma'am, are you the one who reported contaminated water being sold here?" Barbara nodded emphatically. "Yes, absolutely. Who knows what's in those bottles? They could be refilled with tap water, or worse. And he's selling without a license, creating both a health hazard and breaking city ordinance." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Barbara, very well, these are sealed commercial water bottles." "This is ridiculous." Officer Rodriguez held up a hand to quiet us both. "Ma'am, did you personally observe anyone tamper with these water bottles?" Barbara paused for a split second. "Well, no. But did you have any probable cause to think the water was tainted?" he continued. "Well, you can't be too careful," she stammered. Officer Chen stepped in. "Mrs. Winters, making false reports to emergency services is a serious offense. You called 911, claiming there was an immediate public health risk that could injure residents." Barbara's face went through a remarkable series of expressions, from smugness to confusion, to the beginning stages of panic. "I was just attempting to enforce rules. This kind of commercial activity lowers our properties." I stood in wonder as Officer Rodriguez got out his notepad. "Ms. Winters, you knowingly filed a false report to police about a non-existent health hazard that's not enforcing HOA rules, that's breaking the law." Barbara's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. But he's breaking rules too. The HOA specifically states, "The HOA is a private organization, ma'am." Officer Chan interrupted the police. "Don't enforce HOA rules, but we do enforce laws regarding making false police reports." Which is what you've done here. What happened next is something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Officer Rodriguez asked Barbara for her identification, which she provided him with trembling hands. After running her information, he returned with a solemn expression. "Miss Barbara Winters, I'm citing you for filing a false police report. This is a misdemeanor charge that carries a potential fine of up to $1,000 and possible jail time of up to 6 months." Barbara's face turned so pale I thought she would faint. Jail time for reporting a violation. This is preposterous. "Do you know who I am in this community?" Officer Chen was not impressed. "Your reputation in the community doesn't give you. Believe you're above the law. Miss Winters, you'll need to appear in court on the date on your citation." "I would suggest you talk to an attorney," as the officers handed her the citation. The neighborhood, which had gradually gathered to view the scene, lapsed into a stunned silence. Barbara stood still, staring at the yellow paper in her hand, as if it would bite her. "This will go on my record," she whispered to herself. "More than to anyone otherwise, I am in real estate. This could ruin me for a second." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost then, I remembered all the petty fines. The threats, the way she tried to intimidate an 11-year-old kid. My sympathy disappeared. Barbara looked up at me, tears welling up in her eyes. "Michael, please tell them it was a misunderstanding." "Tell them you don't want to press charges?" Officer Rodriguez shook his head. "That is not how this works, ma'am. Filing a false report is a crime against the state, not against Mr. Mitchell personally," as the reality of her situation sunk in. Barbara's attitude completely broke the imperious HOA. President was gone, replaced by a scared woman confronting real consequences. "Maybe for the first time in her life, I could lose my real estate license," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And for what, a kid's water stand?" The officers went back to their cruiser after checking that Tyler was okay and apologizing to him for the disturbance. Barbara stood frozen to the spot, citation in hand, mascara beginning to run as tears streamed down. Her face. 3 weeks later, I received an email notification of an emergency HOA meeting. The first item on the agenda: the immediate removal of Barbara Winters from the board, after she entered a guilty plea to the misdemeanor charge, resulting in a $750 fine and 6 months of probation. The email said her real estate broker had placed her license under review. pending the outcome of an ethics investigation. Barbara's reign of terror was over, not with a neighborhood revolt, but with her own petty vindictiveness and a single yellow citation.